The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Midweek Analysis.
Hey guys, this is a midweek analysis for June 16th of 2021. Okay, we'll start off with the Euro-USD pair. This is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So because this price action right here is very strong short, and this move still having a ways to go, in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. However, because of a breakout of this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, and that breakout being right here, in the medium term, I am long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. However, because the weekly time frame has more strength short than long, in the short term, I am short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Alright, let's talk midweek price. Okay, this is the weekly chart. For an explanation of the setup I've been looking at for the past couple of months, please refer to this week's weekly forecast. Alright, so basically the setup I've been looking at is that the last weekly short trade that formed was right here, and the last long trade that formed was here. And since this short trade is stronger than this last long trade, as price pulled back, I was looking for short entries right back down to this pivot low as a target. So about 3 weeks ago, I took a short entry at this 1.2250 level right here, with a stop loss right at this pivot high right here, and its main target being right down here. Okay, and furthermore, yesterday, I took another short trade at this 1.2130 level right here, with its stop loss at this pivot high right here, and again, its main target being right down here at this pivot low. Alright, so let me show you how I'm managing those trades. So let's just get rid of this. Alright, so first of all, that first short trade I took 3 weeks ago at this 1.2250 level, I moved the stop loss from this high right here right down to this pivot high right here. So at this point, that first short trade I took, which initially had a 100 pip stop loss, now has a 15 pip stop loss. Now the reason why I moved this stop loss from this level up here down to this pivot right here is because there was a new weekly short trade that formed this week right here. And again, this weekly short trade was stronger than this last long trade. And so at this point, since I'm measuring this short trade based on the relative strength differential between this short trade right here and this last long trade, my stop loss was moved to this pivot high right here, because this is the new logical point in which if price reaches, proves that my analysis was wrong. Alright, so moreover, I mentioned I took another short trade yesterday, so let me explain that to you. Alright, so that new position short I took yesterday was at this 1.2130 level, with a stop loss at this pivot high right here, and its main target being the same as the earlier trade, being right here at this pivot low. Alright, so let me just explain to you the health of this short trade at this point. So let's go over to the 1 minute chart. Alright, so on this 1 minute chart, this week's price action is roughly this entire area right here. Now I've been watching for any compact long price action that forms in this area that signals strong long strength. However, there hasn't been any at this time. So for the time being, that short trade seems healthy. However, recall, I'm always watching for this compact long price action to form on the lower time frames, and in which case it does form, I'm willing to abort both trades immediately. Alright, and some possible support levels I'm keeping an eye out for in the future where compact long price action becomes more likely to form is on the monthly chart, so let's go over there. Alright, so on this monthly chart, there's two gaps right here, this gap right here, and the other one is right here. Now the outer level of this combined gap comes from this gap right here, and it's right here. And the bottom level comes from this previous gap right here. So the level of support I'm looking at where a compact price action is more likely to form are these levels right here. So it's this entire gap level right here. Alright, and there's one last thing I want to mention about stop losses. Let's go back to the weekly chart. Alright, so on this weekly chart, I mentioned this earlier about how I moved my stop loss from this pivot high to this pivot high right here. And again, the reason is not because I want to randomly decrease my risk. It's simply because there was a new short trade that formed on this weekly chart, and this new short trade is stronger than this last long trade. So at this point, I'm expecting price to reach this target level right here before reaching this pivot high right here. So at this point, if price reaches this new pivot high right here, well, that proves to me that my analysis was wrong. Again, so it's a logical price level that proves that my analysis is wrong. And that's why I put my stop loss. So a key thing to remember is that when you're building a strategy, the strategy stop loss level should always be placed at a point where price proves to you logically that your analysis was wrong. Alright, so for the time being, I'm always watching the lower time price action to see if there's any compact long price action that forms. And if this forms, I will abort both trades immediately. However, for the time being, this compact price action is not forming. So both of these short trades are healthy in this moment in time. Alright, let's go on to the Usdjpy pair. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So ultimately, I'm still expecting price to reach this 101 pivot low. However, for that, I was talking about the pullback to 104, then to 109, and then down to 101. So in the long term, I am still short biased right back down to this pivot low right here at 101. However, since there's still a lot of momentum long in this pullback right here, and at this point does not seem to be waning, in the short term, I am neutral biased. Okay, let's talk midweek price. Alright, this is a daily chart. For full explanation of the setup I'm looking at currently, please refer to the weekly forecast from 2 weeks ago. Alright, so on this daily chart, if you recall, the last long trade that formed was right here, and this long trade was very strong with the stop loss right here at this pivot low. And then we had many weak short trades that formed after that for the last couple of months. Now last week, that same thing happened. Another weak short trade formed. And if you recall, a setup like this is very common in terms of price action that shows strong long strength. So at this point in time, since we had that weak short trade again form last week, this strong strength long is still intact. So at this point, I'm looking at a couple things in terms of future price action. So let me take you over to the monthly chart. Okay, so on this monthly chart, you're on this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Alright, so 2 weeks ago, price came up to this trend line right here. And at this point, I was watching for any compact short price action to form that shows strong short strength. However, that did not form. Now at this point, when price reaches this trend line again, I'll be watching the lower time frames to see if any compact short price action forms. In which case, if this does form, price is likely to fall right back and stop at that strong daily long trade stop loss level right here that I was talking about earlier, which will further confirm waning long momentum. However, at this point, like I showed you on the daily chart, price is showing a lot of long strength. So at this very moment, since price is not showing any signs of waning long momentum, there are some higher levels that I'm looking for in terms of resistance. Alright, so that price level I'm looking for as resistance is right here. Now this is a gap level created by two gaps, with the bottom end created by this gap right here and the top end created by this gap right here. So if price does get through this trend line level right here, the next level I'll be looking for waning long momentum will generally be at these gap levels up here. And furthermore, in terms of closer future price, what I'm looking at is this trend line again from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now, if price gets above this trend line on the daily chart, moreover, and on the weekly chart, to me that will show that this price action long is not waning in momentum, and price is likely to reach this gap level I was talking about earlier. Okay, furthermore, there was an intraday long trade I was taking, so let me just update you on that. Let's go over to the daily chart. Alright, so on this daily chart, roughly 2 months ago, I mentioned I took a long trade right here with the stop loss at this pivot low right here. However, I took the main targets very early at these levels, and I was leaving 10% in just to see if it could go a little bit higher. Now, I took out another 5% at that monthly trend line level right here. However, again, since this price action on this daily chart is a very common setup that shows long strength, for the time being, I'm still keeping that 5% in to see if price could get through that monthly trend line level and possibly up to those gap levels on the monthly chart. Alright, so let me just sum this up for you on the monthly chart. Alright, so again on this monthly chart, this trend line right here from this pivot to this pivot is the key level I'm looking at. Now I'll be watching in the coming days to see if price either makes compact short price action on this level right here on the lower time frames, which indicates price will likely fall right back down to that daily long trade stop loss level right here. And on the other hand, if price is not willing to wane in long momentum and try to reach these gap levels up here, I'll be watching if there's a daily long breakout of this monthly trend line right here, and furthermore a weekly long breakout of this monthly trend line, in which case price is likely to start reaching these gap levels up here. Okay, so that's it for the midweek analysis. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.